So it's about to get windy for Boris Johnson, potentially, because there's a massive wind turbine clash between the UK and the EU over wind turbines, because the UK wants to build as much of it as it can in-house, and there's a problem with that with a load of abbreviations. One is the WTO and the other one is the TCA, because under those two agreements certain contracts have to go out to tender to WTO members, but I think also EU members, because even though we've done Brexit, the TCA means that certain contracts are still open for bidding. So a new front has opened in the post-Brexit tensions between Boris Johnson and the EU over Brussels' concerns that the British wind turbine industry is being favoured for government contracts worth billions of pounds. And an issue is that some of these contracts do have to go out to open tender because of the way the WTO and the TCA is set up. There's an issue with that in, let's have a look, this story here, where the UK wanted to get this boat built by mainly British manufacturers, but the problem was that due to WTO rules, that wouldn't be happening unless it's a military ship, and the British Navy don't want to pay for it because it's really expensive. So that's created another problem. And there's another problem here, which is that because of the way the rules are set up, the UK might have to put these up for open tender. So with the support of the governments of France and Spain, the European Commission has privately warned the UK that the government's procurement policy could be in breach of the trade deal signed on Christmas Eve. The clash highlights the difficult line that the government is trying to tread in promising to support British companies in the post-Brexit era while fulfilling its commitment to being an open investment from around the world, including Europe. The problem is, right, you're trying to be global Britain but also insular Britain, and you can't do both. When you sign a trade deal, you do give up some sovereignty, and this was a bit of the trade deal apparently, that the UK cannot build everything in-house, that some of these contracts have to be put out to tender to other countries, because that's the way the agreements are. The business secretary, Kwasi Kwarteng, who is an annoying guy but has a really cool name, is preparing to sign off on the hugely valuable renewable energy contracts in the coming months, as the government seeks to fulfill the Prime Minister's promise that offshore wind farms will generate enough electricity to power every home in the UK within the next decade. And that's going to be a really big ask, I'm not going to lie. I mean, I support it. But the problem is that the way the TCA is set up, once again, and the WTO, is that some of these contracts have to be put out to open tender, and that's going to be a problem. The UK could risk it and see if the EU takes legal action, which means that the UK will potentially have to pay fines. But the UK can say that, we want to do what's best for Britain, and the EU wouldn't allow it because they're evil. Something like that. It is understood that the EU is alarmed by the government's public backing of an industry target of 60% of supply chains using UK manufactured goods or domestically supplied services. So the issue with that is the UK wants 60% of things that go into the wind turbine, the services and manufacturing around it, to be made in-house within the UK. And I don't know how much goes into a wind turbine. I assume some of it's going to be steel, and the UK steel industry is already struggling, and the fact that we're going to allow cheaper imports in because we've decided to get rid of quotas on those imports could be an interesting wrench that's thrown in here. But the simple fact is the UK has a target of 60%. Again, I don't mind this necessarily, especially because it's more green, but the problem is with the agreements we've signed, and the EU are more likely to take action now because we have left the EU over the UK doing, using more favourable contracts for British manufacturers. Maybe when we were a member of the EU would have maybe let it slide a bit, maybe been like, all right, cool, we'll just leave it. Other countries get away with it sometimes in the EU, maybe we'll leave it, but we are competitors now with the EU, and the EU are going to use stuff like this against us, and rightfully so. 2 questions in the questionnaire require contract applicants to anticipate with supporting evidence the level of UK content in their project and the level of the local job creation. So again, nothing bad, but what that means is that companies are being asked to say, look, how much is this going to support Britain, your bid? And if it's not enough, then they might not get the contract, which could breach WTO rules, which is a problem, and TCA rules. But the EU-UK deal, trade and cooperation agreement, explicitly prohibits any requirement for companies to achieve a given goal or percentage of domestic content. So basically, the TCA says you can't do this. You cannot, sort of ask countries to use just British manufactured goods. And that's a problem because you cannot be global Britain and insular Britain. You kind of have to pick one. About 50% of the industry supply chains is currently serviced by UK firms, but leading EU-based companies have a big interest in the market because, again, this is a chance for them to make money. And, if the UK takes it away from them, they're not going to be happy, are they? Especially since, again, we are rivals now. We are competitors. And so this is the UK essentially taking money away from French and Spanish firms and other firms in the EU. And they're not going to be happy about that. And they're going to press the EU Commission. They're going to press their MP, wherever their MPs are, the equivalent of their MPs, the equivalents of their heads of state, to stop the UK from doing this, because this is money they could make, essentially. The government is preparing to offer a new round of so-called contracts for difference, which offer cash top-ups to companies investing in renewable energy projects to insulate them from any dips in the wholesale market for energy. So while the UK, because the wholesale market is very volatile, and they always come up with some nonsense, so because they want to increase prices. So by doing this, by creating sort of more domestic energy production, is a good thing, because we're less reliant on kind of foreign countries for energy. So again, I support the notion that they want more sort of domestic energy sources, because that will help Britain, but the way they've gone about it is not the best, and Brexit has thrown a big wrench in this. A round of similar contracts was launched in 2014, offered financial support worth £9.7 billion. Again, I don't think it's mentioned how much the UK is offering to British companies for this kind of project, but given that Boris Johnson wants to power all British homes within the next decade with British kind of British made farmed energy. We'll go with farmed. British farmed energy is ambitious. I support it, but the way he's gone about it is a bit sus. Madrid and Paris instructed the Commission to raise the subject of the new contract process with British officials at a recent meeting. So again, this could further raise tensions between the two groups, the UK and the EU. The Commission expressed its concerns about compliance with the Trade and Cooperation Agreement and the UK's WTO commitment. So they haven't really said much, but I think if the UK presses on with this, they might get a bit more louder. It is understood that the Commission also raised the subject of future UK subsidies for the British wind turbine industry, and that's another problem because certain subsidies aren't allowed under WTO rules. A Commission spokesperson said officials were assessing the UK government's policy, so they're just having a look at the moment to see if everything's on the up and up. If not, then potentially the EU could intervene and they could take us to task under TCA rules, but also potentially WTO rules, which would be awkward considering so many Brexiteers wanted us to do a WTO no-deal Brexit. So how's that going for you, pal? Sam Lowe, a senior research fellow at the Centre for European Reform think tank, said local content requirements are prohibited not just under EU-UK and EU-UK Trade and Cooperation Agreement, but also the UK's WTO commitments. And so by having local content requirements, by saying to companies, look, you have to manufacture X amount within the UK, that breaches WTO commitments, and that's another problem which the UK will face. So once again, the UK, by trying to be global Britain, has caused itself more problems. Which seems to be a theme of this. We'll talk about the Brexit yacht in another video. So the question that needs answering is whether the UK is in fact giving companies with UK supply chains preferential access to contracts or just information gathering. So they might be looking at which companies have strong supply chain links within Britain, and then maybe those companies will get contracts on the sly. Or the UK is just having a look at what's available and how much it will benefit kind of the UK's domestic market in terms of manufacturing and job creation. Again, it's going to be a bit tricky to know for now. The latter is fine, the former less so. So it's okay to look at the information and gather. I guess for an impact assessment it would be alright, but if you are giving British firms preferential access to contracts because they have more British supply chains, that's a problem, according to this gentleman, Sam Lowe. The Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy said the success of applications for UK contracts will not depend on commitments by companies over the use of local labour and services. And the thing is, right, even if they don't, the fact that the UK are making statements like this opens us up to get sued under, under the TCA or by WTO members. So great stuff, guys, once again. So this department said, we are committed to supporting UK renewables industry wherever possible. But the thing is, again, by signing these up to these agreements, you're going to struggle to do that. They go on to say offshore wind sector deals industry. Offshore wind sector deals industry commitment of 60% UK content in its facility. So he's saying that the offshore wind sector, its target is to use 60% of its stuff manufactured within the UK. But obviously, if you're giving companies preferential access because they manufacture stuff in the UK, that could be a problem. If, for example, a Spanish or French company offers you a better deal, but you choose a British one because they are going to manufacture more stuff in Britain, that could be a problem. However, in accordance with the UK-EU trade agreement, there is no mandatory requirements for supply chains to use UK products or any other mandatory target. So what the UK could again try is to look at how much of this stuff will benefit the UK kind of jobs wise, and then use those companies under the guise of saying, oh look, we didn't give these contracts to these companies because they've got UK supply chains for some other reason. And then you get sued by WTO members and potentially under the TCA, which is possible. And the UK could spin it as, look, these British companies gave us a better deal, when that might not be the case. But yeah, it does show you that global Britain is in trouble. The fact that this idea that we could use Brexit to kind of fund domestic infrastructure projects and build everything in house is really fizzling out very quickly before anything's even been done yet. I mean, this whole boat situation's a joke in itself, which is something we're going to talk about in another video. But yeah, sorry, I think the quality is lacking a bit. I am trying to get through doing videos. I'm finding it tough working full time now and doing videos. But look, support the channel if you can on Patreon. Remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.